Okay, we're live.
I'd like to call the regular city commission meeting of Tuesday, August 20th, 2024 to order and ask all of you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Roselle,
Present.
Commissioner Olsman,
Present.
Commissioner Elder,
Present.
Commissioner Steinhardt is excused, Mayor Paul present. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No communications. Don't see any elected officials in the room, so we'll move right to our proclamation. We have one proclamation this evening. Chris, do you want to say a few things about the event that's coming up before I read this?
Sure. Last year, we were able to partner with Jessica Lopez and her family to establish Lysencephaly Day. We read a proclamation similar to this last year. They organized a walk and ride. Did I get that right?
Rock and roll.
Thank you. Walk and roll from their house down to the area in front of City Hall. We had the sign indicated for them for the day on September the 8th. They're looking to do the same again this year. We put together a similar proclamation. And on September the 8th, they will do a walk and roll again to raise awareness for Lysencephaly. It's a disease that has impacted their family and their daughter here, and we have others in the immediate region. I think from the city of Oak Park and from surrounding cities who participate in that. So it's been a great event to draw awareness to that cause and to the need for further research and awareness on that. So they asked us if we could do this again this year. Obviously, we were excited to do that and to allow them and they were able to attend tonight to receive this proclamation and hopefully speak about the event briefly.
Okay, we have a proclamation whereas Lysencephaly is a rare gene-linked brain malformation causing the brain to have less or no ridges and folds, making it appear smooth. It is estimated about 1 in 100,000 individuals are born with this condition. Whereas people living with this condition may also suffer from hypertonia, epilepsy, swallowing disorders, developmental delays, and more. Whereas addressing the complex medical needs early in life is imperative to helping families successfully care for their children at home. The need for more education, awareness, and support for families is desperately needed. Whereas it is appropriate that one day each year should be set apart from the rest and known as Lysencephaly, I don't have it, Awareness Day. This day shall be September 8th. It is a nonprofit charitable organization that wants to help support these individuals through our continued efforts of empowering families and educating communities. So I, Robert Paul, Mayor of the City of Huntington Woods, do hereby proclaim September 8th, 2024 as Lysencephaly Awareness Day and urge our citizens, patients, caregivers, medical professionals, and all agencies and organizations interested in supporting these families to unite on that day in observance of such exercises. You want to tell us a little bit about the walk and roll?
So I have some flyers I'll leave here if anybody's interested. We invite all of you and everyone here to join us. So we're going to walk from City Hall to here. And basically we're just trying to raise awareness for the condition that Juliana, my daughter, has, Lysencephaly. And another big thing is we're trying to, find other families who have kids with this, or adults with the same condition. I couldn't believe it, but last year we had another kid who has lissencephaly show up to our walk. He lives literally not even a mile away from us over in Oak Park, and we had never met him. And we had never met any other individuals with lissencephaly. We had been waiting Juliana's whole life to do that. So I couldn't believe he showed up. I think he couldn't believe that we existed. So it was really, really moving to finally meet him. We see his family, very frequently, and we're very close at this point. So that's what we're going to do at our walk. We're hoping for a few other families of individuals with lissencephaly to show up as well. We may have 3 others come in addition to Juliana and Connor. So yeah, and we'll have a lot of information about what lissencephaly is, some of the things that we struggle with. We'll show off some of her capabilities as well because, she's a sassy little 5-year-old. You just have to kind of look to see some of that communication in ways that other people aren't doing it. So that's what we're doing on September 8th.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for bringing this disease to our attention here
Yeah.
tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
is there a link in the brochure that you have for contributions to the organization?
No, we're not really doing it to raise money. We're just doing it to
Okay,
raise awareness.
well, it's always good to have an option to raise money, isn't it?
So at our walk, I will have some links to some organizations that we recommend to support.
Very good.
I can send those to Chris as well, and he can pass them along.
Thank you for doing this,
Yeah.
for all of us.
Yeah, thank you very much for supporting it. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Next is public participation. This is an opportunity for the public to address the city commission for an item that is not on the agenda. Those wishing to address the commission should step to the podium, state their name and address for the record. It would also be helpful to give your name and contact information to Hank Berry there if you would like to receive follow-up correspondence. In general, members of the public get an opportunity to speak during this portion of the meeting. There is no coming back to the podium to make follow-up or additional comments. Generally, public comments are not a dialogue. This means neither the city commission nor staff will engage in a question and answer session or back and forth discussion with the speaker. However, the mayor may ask the city manager or city staff to answer questions if possible, or to gather more information regarding the subject and continue the discussion with the concerned party outside of the meeting. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Kayes, K-A-Y-E-S. I live at 25875 Salem. I've lived there since 1979, and I grew up around the block on Hendry since 1947. Since over 20 years, my wife and I have maintained a garden at Alligator Park. We maintain the garden where Nadine and Salem come together in that point. We have maintained that garden, as I said, for over 20 years. About 3 weeks ago, and we've maintained a very good garden, well-maintained, excellent flowers, never an issue with respect to the maintenance of that garden. We spend a lot of time and money maintaining that garden. About 3 weeks ago, I'm driving in from Woodward. I come up to the garden, and it's gone. It had been completely removed. All of the flowers, all of the rose bushes, the lilies, everything that we had planted there had been removed. I immediately stopped, as you might imagine, and did several things. One, I called the DPW and talked to Amy and asked her if she knew anything about what had happened. And she said no, she had no knowledge of what was going on. I then happened to see the garden people with a truck near Alligator Park, and I went up and I asked them what was happening, and they said that they had been instructed to remove the garden. I still knew nothing about what was going on, and I happened to come across two people. One who was maintaining another garden in Alligator Park, and she told me that she had seen this happening, had gone up to the people while it was still happening, had told them that these plants were excellent plants and there was no need to do anything with them. And they agreed, but they called their superior, and their superior said, despite everything you've said, continue to remove everything that's in the garden. So having called Amy, who said she knew nothing about it and would try to find out what was happening, eventually somebody told me, and I forget who, forgive me, said that there was somehow a plan for redoing all of the gardens in Huntington Woods, including all of the entrance gardens, etc., and there was some master plan. But no one knew who had adopted this plan, where it was. So as I said, there was another person who came up to me, and she was the person who is now in charge of maintaining all of the community gardens. And she said she knew nothing about this plan. She knew nothing about what was happening. And she would try to find out what was happening. I since haven't heard from her, haven't heard from Amy. I called Mr. Berry, asked him if he knew anything about it. He said he knew nothing about it and he would try to find out, and he hasn't yet gotten back to me. So basically, eventually, they replanted other stuff in the garden, stuff that we hadn't bought, stuff that we wouldn't have put in if we had been asked whether this is appropriate for the garden we might want to maintain. And it's identical with stuff being put in other gardens in Alligator Park. So it's totally contrary to everything that we had intended and had maintained over the years. And to be honest, we were quite unhappy with this. That's polite language, which I don't always use, but that's exactly how we felt about it. And I would really be interested to know if there is a master plan and who adopted it and what notice was given and why it was done. So if and when that information is available, I would appreciate hearing. And you have my contact information. But we definitely wasted a lot of money now and time over the years, including this year where we planted new stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Suhair Ghanam, and I live on 13366 Victoria. I just want to thank the city for the yard sign that states all are welcome here. Since I had this sign on my yard, my ceasefire sign, the third one, is still there and survived, so thank you again. Somehow it's working. The other day, last week, I showed up at the Anti-Racism Advisory Committee and discussed the issue of city employees removing pictures of peace group when they were walking in the 4th of July parade. And some members of the committee recommended that I come in today and speak on that. So I have made some notes that I'm going to be reading here so I don't miss anything. So the city is clearly strives for diversity. A lot of our money, the tax dollars that were spent to conduct the expensive DEI study, and in the report it states, the city's public photos and imagery should be more intentional in representing diversity and the community. So it does suggest that there should be an intention in putting more diversity pictures there. But what happened, pictures were removed that represent the peace group. So the documents that we obtained, and they show the correspondence, it appears that the positive comments about the peace group in the parade were more than the negative comments. You know, usually people put comments when they are not happy, but yet city employees felt compelled to remove pictures of the peace group. And it is ironic that the message that is considered offensive is ceasefire word, which is a message to stop the war. Anyway, while I agree with everyone that the city employees were hardworking and for long hours that day to produce these amazing events in the city on the 4th of July, but it is clear that the city has not communicated clear guidance to the employees that is consistent with the city values and the DEI study. And I'm not sure, I'm not aware if maybe the city has come up with a clear, specific statement, public statement, to foster the diversity in opinions in the city. So, also the action of the employees in removing pictures shows the biases that they have and that they are not aware of these biases. It does require some attention, intention from the city and its employees, maybe some training and guidance to recognize these biases, to bring our community to a better place where diversity is not only a mere word to celebrate. This community is very special. That is why I chose to live here. This is an engaged community, and we challenge ourselves and each other to become a better community of choice, not for some, but for everyone. Let us not throw away the tax dollars spent on the DEI study. Let us use it effectively. You, as our community leaders, we expect you to provide guidance, especially during this election season. Please publish widely a public statement to honor and respect all opinions in this community. Also, we kindly ask that you repost the pictures that were removed. That is the right thing to do. Also, I heard from Marie, who is a resident and wasn't able to show up. She written these words, and I would like to share them. She says, the city is a welcoming place, and to do that, we have to welcome all ideas and beliefs. Deleting photos from a Facebook photo album is telling people who believe in peace and a ceasefire that their opinions are not valued. This is an opportunity for the city to work towards being a more welcoming city for people of all beliefs and backgrounds. Thank you so much. I would ask also to include in the notes, in the minutes notes, that I'm making 3 requests to repost these pictures, to make a public statement, and to provide employees with more training on honoring diversity of opinions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have the packet of the exchange, the documentation. I don't know if I need to leave it with someone or give you copies.
Leave it with Mr. Gray.
We'll take it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Sid Carden, 13307 Vernon. So I want to also address the same issue of the photos, and I want to say that when we treat things the same, it doesn't always mean that that's equal treatment. Ultimately, the city administration decided to remove both of the pictures. And even though on the surface that appears to be equal treatment, that's really a position that advantages the majority, because the majority opinion is always out there. The reason we have a DEI is because we have to work harder to advance the minority position. So that was sort of what I would call negative equality. Positive equality would have been to just put all the pictures out there advance the interest of the minorities and advance the interest of the majority. That would promote better dialogue and better understanding, especially since when we carry signs, it's one particular message, but we don't get the whole message in the sense that if I carry a sign saying ceasefire now, as a Jewish person, it doesn't make me anti-Semitic, nor does it mean that I would not like to see the hostages freed. Conversely, if somebody has a sign on their lawn that says free the hostages, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is in favor of war. That person may also be seeking a ceasefire. That signage and those messages promote more dialogue that move us closer to an understanding. When we move away from an understanding, when we cancel the photos, we move away from dialogue. And we also move away from advancing the minority position. So I would like us to think differently about what same treatment really means. And we would like to move to a situation where same treatment means the minority position is advanced as well as the majority position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, 13103 Elgin.
It's okay.
13103 Elgin, Huntington Woods. I will address the same issue as well. We requested that all communications related to the 4th of July parade, removal of the photos, although the majority of the stuff that we read from the citizens of this community was pro-peace and justice, as is the case with most of us here. And I'm still surprised that they were removed due to the whims of somebody with influence or whatever. That this is what we're trying to find out. Why does someone get pulled and others don't? Who gets to decide what stays and what doesn't? Also, I thought there's something funny with the communication between the staff here. From Tracy Shanley, just to let you know, I removed 2 more photos without any prerequisite request. Where does the request come in? Who requested those photos be removed? Who approved those photos to be removed? What process do they take in order to satisfy such a request? Was the FOIA completely given in its authenticity with honors? I mean, are all the how do we know all the communications related to that incident were actually included in the FOIA request that we submitted? There's clearly some disconnect in the conversation. Out of the blue, somebody says, I removed 2 more. So there's an earlier conversation that's not being included here. So there's a lot of, what's good for you may not be good for others. And there's another issue. We requested earlier in the year that either a proclamation or proposition of some sort calling for a ceasefire be issued from the city. And it was it was communicated to us that we don't get involved in world matters, in anything that's not community-based. But then we found out that on March 22, the city called for a divestment. All of its municipal employee retirement system divest from everything Russian Federation related. How do you explain that? You pick and choose your battles? You're for the Russian lives, but not for Palestinian lives? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sonia Harb. I'm a resident of Huntington Woods, 13103 Elgin Avenue, and I support everything that my neighbors have said. And what troubles me most about this, well, many things troubled me about this, but that by removing the photos, you've revised history. And that is something we fight against when we're trying to promote truth and justice and telling the story, the true story of what our history, our collective history is in this society. And by removing photos, you've negated that the march happened, that the signs were carried, that the messages were communicated to the public. So in essence, the action revised history so that future generations or people visiting the page in later months or years won't see it. And it is as though it never happened. So that's what troubles me about this, that exertion of power to revise history. To me, it's very shameful, and it's terrifying, and it's very upsetting.
Thank you.
My name is Jessica Downey, and I live at 13160 Kingston. For over 7 years, I have brought you my concerns regarding Vale Jones Park. I have provided significant evidence for every single claim I've made, including photos, audio, and video. I've cleaned up hundreds of pieces of litter in and around my property, including drug paraphernalia and liquor bottles. I've listened to the most foul language imaginable, often in earshot of my young children. I've shown up to dozens of city meetings, sent over 100 communications, provided you with facts and figures, and compiled information and police reports. I've done extensive research on neighboring skate park facilities and on sound abatement, including all types of sound barriers and sound dampening products, which I've presented to you and to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board on multiple occasions. I've been villainized by community members based on false allegations made by a former member of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I spent thousands of dollars on a privacy fence to attempt to mitigate some of the noise carryover into our yard and home, which sadly has provided little relief. I witnessed dozens of illegal acts and ordinance violations. I even believed you when you said you'd bring my neighbors and I to the table to help find solutions to the problems Vale Jones Park has created. As a resident, I have gone above and beyond in chronicling and dealing with the nuisance that is Vale Jones Park. So imagine my surprise when you held a special commission meeting on July 15th that I, of all people, knew nothing about. Part of that meeting included a review of the park's capital improvement plan. As someone who's been extremely invested in the future of our city parks, this was a meeting I would have liked to be a part of. Unfortunately, I had no idea this meeting was even taking place, despite receiving all the monthly city newsletters, following the city pages on Facebook, and visiting the city website frequently. Surely, one of you could have had the decency to inform me of the meeting, knowing my history with the park, but sadly, you did not. This meeting was not on the city calendar, was not shared in any e-blasts or newsletters, not in any emails sent by the city, not posted anywhere on the city's website, nor any other form of official communication. In addition to my knowledge, the special meeting was not video or audio recorded, nor posted on the official YouTube page, and minutes were not uploaded to the city website. Per the Open Meetings Act, meetings of a public body cannot be held unless public notice is given consistent with the OMA at least 18 hours prior to the meeting. In addition, a notice must be posted in a prominent and conspicuous place in both the public body's principal office and on the official website of the public body on a portion of the site that is fully accessible to the public. Sadly, this isn't the first time this has happened when a special meeting of City Commission has taken place. The lack of proper communication and transparency regarding this important meeting is concerning, especially for those of us invested in the future of our city parks. Moving forward, I would hope you would ensure better dissemination of information to the public in accordance with legal requirements for open meetings. Last Friday, my 6-year-old daughter underwent surgery. Upon returning home, we set her up in our living room to rest. We opened the windows to get some fresh air and a reprieve from the stale hospital air. Immediately, the peace was disturbed by the telltale thwack of a hockey puck hitting the boards every 15 seconds. This continued for hours, making it difficult for her to recover in peace. As a parent, having a child go through a surgery is hard enough, but then for that child to not even be able to recover in peace in her own home, after said surgery is absolutely unconscionable. Some of you are parents or grandparents. Can you imagine your child or grandchild not having a peaceful place to recuperate in their own home after a surgery? There is not a single one of you that could look me in the eye and tell me you would put up with this daily aggravation from an outside source inside your own home. Yet you, our esteemed elected officials, have not done one single thing to prevent that from happening to me and my family. As city representatives, you epitomize rules for thee, but not for me.
On May 1st of this year, you posted a weed control notice for owners or occupants of parcels of land, stating that any growth or grass of weeds greater than 6 inches needed to be removed, or residents could be charged for removal by the city and receive civil fines. You are spending over $100,000 a month for lawn care and maintenance throughout the city. In fact, Vale Jones Park was even freshly mowed today. So please explain to me why the weeds in Vale Jones Park are nearly 60 inches tall. So we have to keep our private properties in compliance with code, but the city does not have to keep theirs. The packet of information I have here shows the ordinance and rule violations for Vale Jones Park just in the last week alone. There's pictures of the weeds, marijuana containers, litter, more marijuana paraphernalia, vodka bottles, vapes, medication packets, tons of litter, just in the last week. This is a Snapple bottle, a piece of a car part, a Faygo bottle, and some paper that has been sitting there since early June. Since early June. It's not been touched, it's not been looked at, it's not been picked up. This includes weeds, litter, marijuana paraphernalia, alcohol, and more, along with the overall condition of the grounds. The overall condition of the grounds are deplorable. The picnic tables are unlike any other picnic table in the city. I have visited them all. There is not another picnic table in any city of Huntington Woods that looks like the picnic tables at Vale Jones Park. Some of you, let me back up. In addition, there have continuously been dogs, both leashed and unleashed, along with bikes in the park, which is against park rules. Some of you have called this park an asset. Please look through this packet of information and tell me how this is an asset to our community. There is not another park in the city that even comes close to the dilapidated eyesore that is Vale Jones Park. At this point, I don't know how many more complaints I can make, pictures I can show you, clips I can play to substantiate my claims. It's truly unbelievable that I still have to come and make public comments at these meetings year after year after year, and still not one permanent solution has ever been implemented to circumvent the problems caused by Vale Jones Park. It's unbelievable. As I have in the past, I invite each of you to visit my property to experience it for yourselves. Maybe that will give you some true perspective. But by continuing to do absolutely nothing, allowing the park to deteriorate and accepting the status quo, you're showing the residents and visitors alike that it's okay to disrespect the parks of Huntington Woods.
Tough act to follow. I was originally coming here because I wanted to find out when common decency would lead the commission to respond to people who've been asking the city to support a UN-US resolution on Gaza. But after seeing the minutes from the July meeting, I really want to talk about why the minutes are so inaccurate. This is a consistent pattern. And specifically, I'm talking about the minutes about my public participation, which is described in the minutes as noted his support of Gaza and Ukraine. I have no idea what that means, as I'm sure you remember. What I simply said was that I was struck by the hypocrisy of a commission that would support Ukraine enthusiastically, but would not even respond to a request by citizens to have the commission endorse a essentially UN-US resolution on Gaza. This is not what I said. This has happened before. The city clerk seems to have a problem with trying to turn every comment, every public participation into a rosy, positive thing about the city. But I think you have a moral and legal responsibility to provide accurate minutes of your meeting. And I'm asking you to change these minutes, correct these minutes, and make sure that the city clerk provides accurate minutes of public participation in the future. And then I think you may have some advice for them about their responsibilities. Thank you.
Any other public participation?
So Connor is here. I would like to introduce him. He is the other little boy with lissencephaly that we met at our walk last year. And I just want to thank you guys again for kind of enabling this for us. Honestly, we wouldn't have met had we not done that walk and had that proclamation last year. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it means quite a bit.
And this is his mom, Amanda.
Thanks for coming in this evening. And that walk starts here at City Hall on the 8th at
Yeah.
what time?
It starts at the rec center, I'm sorry.
Oh, rec center?
It's the 8th at 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the regular items of business. Sure, do you want to clarify where
I just-
the special meeting was posted, just for the record?
I mean, the minutes were in the packet and approved tonight, but can you clarify that the meeting was posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act and all the necessary requirements under
Yes,
the law
it
were
was
met?
posted on the bulletin board here, it was posted on the city's website. I didn't think it was a secret. I'm sorry Mrs. Downey didn't know. I'd be happy to meet with her and go over anything we discussed at that meeting, but it was not a secret meeting and it was not held in violation of the Open Meetings Act. The city attorney was actually here and participated in that.
Can you show where it was posted on the website? Because I have screenshots of all of it, and it's
I will, well, after the meeting, it would have been posted, it was posted prior to that.
I know where.
I'll have the city clerk get with you and provide that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 1 is a matter of consideration to approve a rate for public use of the EV charging stations at City Hall.
Thank you. So we have begun the installation of a new public EV charging station, and you might have seen it this evening. It's just at the edge of City Hall, City Hall parking lot on the east side. That was something we had budgeted for and planned for, so this is the first one of those, and I think there'll be more coming forward. But one of the things we discovered we needed to establish was a rate for the public to use that. They can pay through an app that will be made, will be brought online here soon, but we needed to establish an acceptable rate. So city administration took some time, did some research on this. These public EV chargers are charged at the unit of measure here is per kilowatt hour. That's how you pay for that. And we looked around nationally and locally, somewhere between 10 and around 35 cents a kilowatt hour was kind of the industry standard. We looked locally. Berkeley's charging 23 cents per kilowatt hour for their 2 chargers that they have. Royal Oak charges 20 cents per kilowatt hour plus any parking that would apply depending on where, if the parking charges apply at that time. Also took advantage of some local expertise we have in this with a member of the planning commission who provided some guidance with this. Came up with a rate of 20 cents per kilowatt hour as a fair and appropriate level. Discussed this with the Environmental Sustainability Committee at their meeting last week, and they agreed and recommended to come forward to the Planning Commission with a rate of 20 cents per kilowatt hour to get started. We will have the ability to monitor that, to see how much is being used, if it's being used a lot or is being used very little at all, and we can adjust the rate accordingly if market condition changes or if it's being overused or underused, we can adjust that in the future. But I feel going forward, this was the appropriate rate to start, and I'll keep council, the commission abreast of how much that's being used. But we're excited to have it available. There'll be one charging station with 2 separate chargers available on that, and we'll be. We are putting this one here because of work that we'll have going on in the fall at the rec center and library. They'll be moving some parking over to that lot, and eventually we'll have probably some restoration of that parking lot when that's done. So in the future, I think we will look for other stations in that area and the rec center / library parking area. But for the first one that we had budgeted, we placed that here at City Hall for now. So if the council is agreeable, we will establish the rate of 20 cents per hour, bringing that online so that that can be used by the public, and we'll see how much it's being used.
Mr. Mayor?
What is the cost to us? What do we pay per kilowatt hour for the electricity that's being utilized?
It's less than 20 cents. Some of that's dependent upon the time of day that comes out. That rate is variable, but we're not losing money. We're generating a profit. I'm not gonna make $14,000 on this anytime soon, but we're not subsidizing this, at all. We're more than making our money back by doing this.
And it's open, anyone who wants to stop there and use it can use it.
It will be open to the general public. I can't limit that to.
Oh, residents.
To residents only. It'll be open to any resident who has an EV who wants to charge.
Pay for it with an app.
Yes, pay for it through the app. But we will get compensated through the app for that charge.
Mr. Mayor? There was a point in time where there was some question about the legality of this because we're not an authorized reseller of electricity and we're not regulated by the Public Service Commission. So there was discussion about the legality of a municipality recharging consumers for the use of electricity. And instead, they were examining like a per use, like an access fee to access the charger, and then that's a way of circumventing it. Now, you know, I'm not an expert on how this legal thing has evolved, but I do know there was a question at a point in time of whether we're allowed to resell electricity.
I recall that. I think that's been resolved. This is the standard that is being charged publicly and privately. Everybody's charging by kilowatt hour, including municipalities that are charging for this. This is the standard that's being used now. If the law or the interpretation of the law by the changes, we can change that. But this
Other cities everybody's doing it, so.
Like I said, something could have changed or not. I'm
Well,
curious.
Obviously, Berkeley, Royal Oak, I assume Oak Park, I assume Southfield, I assume
Ferndale.
all of our neighbors,
I can tell you the county is in serious legal review of chargers on the complex right now because they think it runs afoul of state statute. But, I mean, like I said, if you know of some legal authority that allows us unregulated by the Public Service Commission to resell electricity, I'm good. I just want to make sure that we're on solid ground.
Yeah, I have not been involved in this particular issue personally, so I don't have the answer to that off the top of my head, but we will gladly confirm.
if it turns out that it's not, then obviously everybody can take down their charging stations. Somehow I don't think
Or
that-
charge the access fee
Or
in
be
lieu
very
of per
okay.
kilowatt.
All right, but in the meantime, we got it.
I think it's a good point. I'll work with Carol and Matt to look into that. I would still recommend going forward with this rate right now, and if we need to revise that or alter that in the future, I'll bring that back before the commission.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'll vote in favor, but I would like you to follow up, and if you could get back with the commission after you've looked into it, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll ask Matt and or Carol to produce a memo, and I'll share that with the
Thank
commission.
you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is a matter of approving a contract with Robinson Capital for investment services and authorize the city finance director to sign the agreement. We have a
So moved.
Second.
Ethan, any comments you want to add there?
So we're looking to add another investment vendor to our list of approved vendors. You know, it's always helpful to diversify our investments. Robinson Capital's been in the area for a while. Their firm is located in Grosse Pointe Farms, but they're highly regarded within the municipal finance community. They present at conferences. They actually do every month they'll do a economic outlook that does hard economic data, you know, and deals with the jobless report and where interest rates are heading and things like that. So this particular contract is with Robinson Capital. I would like to note that they use Huntington Bank who is also one of our vendors, as a custodial partner. So they produce the statements, and we get the statements from Huntington, but it's Robinson Capital making the investment decisions. It operates similarly to like a LGIP or Oakland County has their, investment pool, but we'll just be putting a small amount in there, and then they will be investing that among different CDs and treasuries and things that we can invest in under Public Act 20.
Thank you. Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission?
So they're proposing charging 10 basis points annually for the amount that we give them?
Yeah, so that's their fee, and Huntington is also 10 basis points. That's rather typical. I mean, if I go to buy a CD from our Huntington vendor, for example, they're gonna give me, you can buy, the maturity at this date, the interest rate of X. Well, that's probably not what they're getting it for, but they have to take back a little bit for their own, everybody's gotta make money on this stuff. So that's their published rate is 10 basis point. I don't see, and that's an industry standard, I don't see anything wrong with that.
All right.
Well,
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
do you have a comment?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is a consideration of approving the contract with Verigy. Chris, are you taking the lead on this?
Sure. We had a special meeting on July 15th. As you'll remember, we went over a presentation again from Verigy. It was a follow-up of their feasibility study they had done, presented both to the Environmental Sustainability Committee and also to the Commission on a couple of different occasions. Had a lot of discussion that night about the letter of understanding that they wanted to go forward with this, and it was under advice of City Attorney Rosati that we were decided to preferred to move forward with an actual contract. So Mr. Rosati and legal counsel for Verigy spent quite a bit of time in the last month putting together the draft contract that you have before you. Initial draft was submitted by Verigy. Mrs. Rosati made many significant changes to that, all of which were accepted by Verigy. So I think with what you have with this is a formal contract, which we would have, I think under the way it was originally proposed, we would have got to this eventually. We would have signed a letter of understanding and move forward to a contract phase. I think this kind of firms up the relationship between Verigy and the City of Huntington Woods now. We also work to provide Verigy with a list of what we felt are the city's priorities and wishes going forward regarding to the scope of project that they have submitted. I've submitted that to Verigy. They've received it and acknowledged that. And I've told them it's our anticipation they will proceed forward with these bids and a scope of work based upon our preferences and priorities. They've indicated they will do that and will proceed based on our priorities. So I think at this point, I'm happy with the work that Mr. Rosati did with the contract. I think it protects the city's interest, and I think it gives clarity and direction to Verigy to begin to move forward with this project, which will, in some effect, start over again. I mean, there's going to be a lot of work that we'll need to do going forward with putting actual projects together and bid documents and receiving prices. So this is, I know a lot's been done today, but there's going to be a lot of work for them going forward. But this gives them authorization to begin that and begin projects coming back to the City Commission for ultimate approval. Everything's still subject to a final approval, review and approval by the City Commission. So this allows them to begin this work on our behalf. We do have Dick Williams of Verigy who's here, and Ed stuck in the back as well. Thanks, Ed. If you have any questions to them, I've tried to summarize it, I think, well. So, but they wanted to be here tonight as well for this.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Comments or questions from the commission? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The work can begin, finally. All right, item number 4. This is a matter of adopting an ordinance, and this is the first reading. to amend Chapter 40 zoning, Article 10, site design standards regarding fences, hedges, walls. Hank, do you want to hit the highlights of the changes here?
I'd be happy to. Basically, what we're doing here is we're correcting some things that probably should have been done a while ago. The ordinance changes will accomplish a few things. One of the most important is dropping the neighbor's signature as a prerequisite in order to have a privacy fence. The issue became that you were forcing the neighbor to act as a de facto zoning board of appeals. And by doing so, if your neighbor was okay with it, you could have a fence, but if your neighbor wasn't okay with it, you couldn't have a fence. And that wasn't equal to all residents of Huntington Woods. So as it is now, what the city, or what we're proposing is that we would go ahead and we would allow the privacy fences, but we would put in a codicil that said, if you are putting in a privacy fence, which you would be entitled to by right, and your neighbor had a cyclone fence or another type of fence, that fence would have to be removed at the applicant's cost. Meaning, if my neighbor has a cyclone fence and I want to put up a privacy fence, I can do it, but I have to give them the option of whether or not they would like their fence removed at my cost. So there seemed to be a lot more equity in something like that, whereas if you did want the fence and your neighbor was, okay, I want the fence, but I don't want mine here and I don't feel I should have to take care of it and take it down, then the onus would be on the applicant, which we thought was fair. Also, we've had a lot of conversations, Carol and I, over the last few years about signing off on your neighbor, and we believe that that's something that wouldn't pass a legal challenge if it came up. So as a result, what we wanted to do is we wanted to put the city in a better position, so that was one of the things that we did. And we also wanted to give the neighbor an opportunity to have the privacy fence, which we regularly have come in. And we also wanted to give the neighbor a chance to be made whole by the removal of the other fence. So having said that, we believe we've accomplished that with this. Some discussion was also had regarding invisible fences in the front yard, and some people had originally favored it. Again, the issue with them in the front yard is the perception of passersby with or without animals. They don't know it exists. So you have animals out in the front yard, and anybody that would come up to the front door, such as letter carriers or delivery people, Amazon, any of the other tons of delivery people that we have in the city, as well as neighbors, friends, and workers, they would have to walk past the animal to get there, and that puts them in somewhat of a precarious position. So the staff really doesn't recommend front yard fences of any type. But having said that, that's what we're trying to accomplish with this ordinance, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, the neighbor's desire to remove the fence is at the time of the other fence's installation.
That is
They can't come
correct.
back 3 years later and say,
No.
you know, I don't like the cyclone fence, now pay to take it out.
Yeah,
They
no, it
decide
would
right
be
then.
at the time,
Right.
and then with that would be. One other concern that was raised with this was, notification to the neighbor as far as, the new fence would be going in. Right now, we currently don't notify neighbors if there's a cyclone fence coming in. It's a by right thing. This would be a by right thing too, but there's also a fail-safe mechanism in it when you have to ask the neighbor, hey, I'm putting up a privacy fence. The ordinance requires me to remove yours. Would you like me to do that? So that's going to be, it won't be in the ordinance, it's going to be on the application, so that they'll be very clear when they take the application and they have the permit that they have to post during the construction, it's going to be on there. So that way we make sure that the onus is on them to go ahead and make sure that their neighbor knows what's going on.
Does the neighbor have to sign off?
No. And again,
I don't say agree, but sign off that you're gonna take let's say you have a privacy fence going up on the west, and on the east it's a cyclone fence. Does the neighbor who has a cyclone fence have to sign something saying, I've agreed to have this fence removed?
They don't. We don't have a provision for that. If that's something that the commission feels that we should add
Well, I
between
can tell you
the first and second reading, we could do that.
Well, I think you would agree that any fence contractor is gonna want that before they remove somebody else's fence.
And they might, as a matter of course of business, that they would normally do. So that's something that we could do, or we could even put that on the application.
Because I, truthfully speaking, have, that's essential. I guess it borders on a distinction without a difference. if there's another fence, that they would get notice that you're putting up a privacy fence and that they are agreeing because they've agreed that you can remove the fence. I'm a little concerned about this, not having the agreement with the neighbor, but, I mean, I think this may accomplish that in the same way. I'm a little concerned about that, and I mean, I've seen this before. I mean, we have that situation right now because of the storm back in June, and we have a neighbor, very nice people with a pool behind, people on the other side with a pool, you know, and we've got a semi-construction fence, there were two fences. I mean, basically it's a mess, but that's what happens when a 40-foot oak tree falls on them. It sort of equalizes the disparity of the fences, but I'm a little concerned about that for the next meeting. Maybe there may be merit some discussion about that. I definitely think that a contractor, if you call Action Fence hypothetically and say, I want a privacy fence, and the neighbor says it's okay to take down that cyclone, they're not gonna agree to do that unless they see that in writing clearly. They're not gonna touch it, you know, and they're not going on the neighbor's property, and they're not gonna touch that fence. They're very touchy about those kinds of things, so.
If it would be the pleasure of the commission, I'd be happy to have that conversation with City Attorney Rosati or.
Just want to make sure we've got the basis. Is this similar to other cities now?
Yeah, with fences, you see it done really equally each way, to be honest with you. Some require the neighbor's permission, some don't. There's a great deal of variation.
Well, then you have the problem of the space between fences, which I've seen personally. It's, you know, where there's a big gap and all of a sudden it's full of weeds, and who takes care of the weeds? And if you don't, we wouldn't think that a fence could cause that much trouble.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, I know.
They do.
Just for clarification, Commissioner Olsman, I think too that's part of the reason that we offer the other fence to go away at the applicant's expense, because if it does create a raceway or some kind of thing that could be unsightly, the opportunity to go away is with that. The other part of the thought process behind that is that in doing this, where you have the neighbor's permission or it has to be taken down at that time, the thought process from us was that if the fence contractor is putting up the fence, then he's really the one that needs the permission for the fence to come down, so that he would secure that for his own protection, because it wouldn't matter to us. So having said that, that was the thought process behind that, but I'm happy to get clarification for you behind.
This is the first reading.
Yes, sir.
Before we get to the
Yes.
final draft, there might be some.
Yes, we'll have that conversation.
So if the homeowner doesn't want their cyclone fence removed, we now have two fences on the lot line.
Right, that both people agree to.
And we've removed from our ordinance
We've
where
removed
that was
the,
not
yeah.
allowed.
It's in the event that property owner, well, it's going to do this. It's going to say that you can have the two fences, you understand the ramifications of the two fences, and if you want them both to stay, that's great. If you don't want them to stay, then here's your mechanism for its removal.
Okay, and in the case where the neighbor doesn't respond, whether they want it or don't want it, their cyclone fence is staying. Is that the?
Because nobody would have permission to do that, yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with the statement too about the fences in the front yard. We've got complaints in the past where people are out for a walk, they see a dog in the front yard, they kind of panic, they don't realize the dog is behind an invisible fence. Those are not foolproof. The dog can push beyond the barrier of the fence, so I'm glad to see that that was removed and that those are limited to the rear yard where I think it's best, because for the reasons you've outlined, all the different deliveries, but as well as people who are out walking that might see a dog that appears aggressive and not realize that the underground fence exists, invisible fence. That's because it's invisible.
Astute observation.
You got that right.
Yeah, Mr.
That's why they pay me $1 a year.
He is sharp.
They pay me $1 a year.
He is sharp.
So, Mr. Mayor, I had a conversation with Hank about this too, but my concern, and I do think that Mr. Osman brought up a good point just about the clarity, you know, and I understand that from a legal perspective, you make some good points and why we're doing this. My only concern is just the clarity and the expectations, because right now, people expect your neighbors to communicate to you to get the sign off, right? So in some format, way or matter, that transition, if something changes with this process, it needs to be carefully thought out and baked into the process, whether it's on the application to, notify, I know it's by right, but in some way, I would like to see some type of check, in the process, so that let's be neighborly, let's be good neighbors and let people know what's going on, because otherwise I can see a situation where the neighbor is not aware, and then all of a sudden, there's a change that could impact their property.
In Commissioner Elder, to your concerns, and, perhaps Mr. Zaleski could comment on this, that could be as simple as when they sign the application, that there's a phrase or a statement in there that says, I have let my neighbor know that this is going to be occurring, and signing on it. So at that point in time, there would be no doubt, or at least they would make the representation that they have communicated this.
Yeah.
So it could be something as simple as that, but I would defer to the city attorney.
Yeah, well, it could be done that way, but if the commission wished to have something like that in the ordinance, which would then make it mandatory to be on the application, I mean, that's something we could bake into it.
I mean, we've had, I don't necessarily disagree, but we've run into issues where people are absentee homeowners, we've had vacant properties we've had to go after. I mean, what's the person who wants a fence next door supposed to do with the guy who's in Wyoming that's like refusing to even come maintain the property here in the city? Like, he's never gonna be able to reach out to that particular individual to make them aware of it. I mean, we've had limited instances where situations like that pop up. So I mean, I would say like a contact or attempted contact where you made like a good faith effort, but to say that you have to, I'm not in favor of that, because there are situations where, I got a complaint from a resident the other day I forwarded to Hank about a blight situation. They're absentee homeowners. You're never gonna be able to reach those folks. They don't even live in state anymore. The house is sitting vacant.
So maybe it's not in the ordinance, but I'm saying like as a part of the process, because if we mandate it, then that defeats this whole ordinance rewrite, right? But somehow it needs to be a part of that process of application, or here's your checklist of things have you done, I don't know how, Hank, you administer
Perhaps,
that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but perhaps before the next meeting, we could generate a revised fence application that might make the commission more comfortable with this. So we could do that and circulate that to the commission.
You can define notice in the ordinance as mailing it to the last known residential address of the property owner, that's fine. I mean, there's lots of ways to give notice, but nothing's perfect, but like I said, there's a little trepidation here. I want to go slowly here. I don't want to be fenced in, if you know.
And the most extreme carrying out of the concern about the notice is you could end up getting to a point where if the person is absentee and you don't have something self-executing like that, it becomes a zoning board of appeals matter.
If they own the property, we have an address, because they get a tax bill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that can be in there, that can constitute notice. Mailing by first-class mail, or even certified mail, whatever, you can put that in there. That's not a big deal to put in there. Joe's point is good on that there aren't many, but there are some, and you don't need a lot to have a problem. So, anyway, before the next meeting,
we'll generate that application.
Little chat there. All right.
Do we have a motion to approve the first reading?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded.
Any public comment? All right. Anybody else have anything they want to add to the discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll talk more about it next month. City managers report.
Thank you. Work has begun on the pole barn next door at DPW yard. If you have a chance before you leave, then take a quick look at that. That is replacing the old 1920s, 30s era building that was taken down, that was unsafe. The old dog pound sign shop property, so work's progressing well on that. I think it'll be a good addition to house some of those materials within the city. A couple of things we're working on, potential, had a lot of help and guidance from Commissioner Steinhardt, who can't be here tonight, but she has championed a street sign replacement program, so we're working on that. I want to talk to the commission about that. And also as an offshoot of the meeting of July 15th, also have been working with Great Lakes Landscaping, and I have a preliminary quote for some of the modifications at Scotia to go over with the commission, I think, to hopefully bring that back into shape and remove some of the areas that we kind of mutually agreed that are outside of our area to control anymore. So I'd like to move forward with those, and I'll be communicating with the commission on that. Other than that, that was all I had.
Are there any questions from the commission for the city manager? No. Okay. Commissioner comments? Pro Tem?
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I would say is, for the benefit of the public that's here, I, or to my colleagues, for that matter, have no knowledge that, we never ordered the posting of those photos or the removal of those photos. The commission does not monitor or get involved in the administrative day-to-day duties of the city staff. That was all handled by the staff. Nobody on this body, to my knowledge, ordered their removal. I've expressed to the city manager my feelings on the matter, and I know that he's addressed it accordingly, and I'll leave it at that, considering it's a personnel matter. But I just want to be clear that this body does not get involved in what goes on or off that Facebook page. But I appreciate the comments made this evening. Thank you.
Commissioner Olsman?
None other we can tell Heidi, I think her job is safe because my granddaughter lives in Chicago, and although she's been a very attentive city clerk in the waiting here tonight.
Great job.
Heidi's job is safe.
Great job.
Commissioner Elder?
Yeah, I want to confirm what Mr. Rosal said as well, and I have expressed my opinions and recommendations to the city manager as well. So thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, everyone.